These are my essential Hogwarts Legacy early game tips that all new players should know. Mostly I will be keeping as many major spoilers out of this video as I possibly can, but I will be discussing game mechanics and things that you may want to do in order to prepare for upcoming game events. If you don't want to hear anything on the game or anything that might be potential spoilers, I would recommend saving this video until you have had a chance to play the game a little bit for yourself. The video will of course have timestamps down below, so do feel free to come back to any section that you need to in the future, or just skip around right now to find anything that you are looking for specifically. If you do go on to enjoy the video, then please remember to drop a like, as it massively helps out to support my channel, and if you would like to see more Hogwarts Legacy content, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, as I have tons more coming soon. Now, the main bulk of Hogwarts Legacy will be questing and going around doing main missions and side missions. These can be accessed through the Quests tab, and what you can actually do on here to help locate some of the particularly difficult to find tasks can be to hover over the quest on your respective console or PC, and as you guys can see in the bottom right of my screen, on PC the button that you are looking for here is F, and you can locate this on the map. This will actually take you to where the quest is located on the map, and from this you can then go ahead and of course track that or set a waypoint and use the nearest flue fire in order to teleport nearby to that location and find your way towards that quest objective. This is available for all of the main story quests as well as some of the side missions, but things like assignments or other quests that have multiple sections to them, you'll need to go ahead and complete those sections as they may not have a specific location. Another thing to point out that comes into the game fairly early on is the owl post or the owl mailing system, and often, as you will see here, there is some of the exclamation mark on some of the mail that you receive in the game, and this is because some quests do come through the owl mail system. So if you're ever at a point in the game where you're not quite sure what quest you should be doing or what your next challenge is going to be sure to check on your mail to see whether you have any upcoming quests from this system. Now, one of the spells that you will learn pretty early on in Hogwarts Legacy is Incendio. This one has got a limited range. If I demonstrate here, you'll be able to see that this spell goes just a short few meters in front of the character. Do with this what you will, whether it be for killing enemies and using it in accordance maybe with, let's say, Accio to pull enemies in, and then using it to do a bit more damage, especially if these are ranged enemies, which most enemies in this game are, or indeed if you want to go ahead and do puzzles, you are going to need to get close to whichever of the objectives you're trying to hit with Incendio. That is, of course, until you earn some longer range fire spells if fire is needed. Now, a massive part of Hogwarts Legacy is going around and exploring the world, the castle, Hogsmeade, wherever it might be that you are, and one major thing that you will need to keep doing is pressing R or your respective keybind on consoles to use Revelio, and this will actually show you where there is magic interactable objects, as well as things like chests, which you can loot in order to get yourself some nice goodies. So for example, we can see up here, there is a chest just around this corner. We'll go in and loot that one up, and from that one we got a Wiggenweld potion. Chests can contain gear upgrades, potions, as well as the gold currency in the game, but there are also different types of chests within the game, and anybody who is a completionist or that wants to go through and collect all of the collections, this is going to be particularly helpful. So if you hover over the area of the map that you are on, for example Hogwarts, you guys will be able to see in the top right section of the screen here, it tells us how many collection chests we have. So currently I have done 6 out of 35 on this character here. How many field guide pages, how many demiguise statues, and how many astrology tables. Now, particularly the collection chests are super useful, as that is going to unlock things from your collections tab. Now, there is another type of chest in this game, which are these ones right here, which have a eye on the front of them. These actually give you a clue. You can see there's a little underneath the big eye, there is a kind of the symbol of the disillusionment enchantment. So what you will need to do, you unlock this spell pretty early on in the game. You will need to cast this when you are out of sight of the chest, and then of course sneak up on it, which will allow you to open this chest. And as you guys can see, 500 gold is received in the top right there, so this is super worthwhile doing and can get you some much needed gold for any upgrades that you might need. If a quest or activity that you are trying to do requires a certain time of day, you can simply go onto the map, press F, and as you can see here, wait here to advance time from day to night or night to day. This is particularly useful for some of the later on collections that you might be doing or certain side quests, but also for some missions you'll see this prompted on the floor by a golden circle. If you don't get that and you do need to change the time, that's how you do it. It will be F on PC or whatever your keybind is in the bottom right when you are on the map there. If you need to swap spells mid-combat, you can of course bring up the spell swapping menu, and that will actually pause the combat that you are currently in to be able to go ahead and swap in and out different spells. Now, as you get further into the game, you will be able to unlock talents, which will allow you to have multiple combinations of 4 spell combos. So as you can see, you would have one at the top, you would then have extra additional ones here, but towards the beginning of the game, or dependent upon which talents you actually choose, you may only have one section, so don't be afraid to use this mid-combat if you need to switch out a spell and drag another one into its place. Now, when you are fighting enemies, always try to hit them with the 4 basic attack combo, or 4 attacks in succession, if you are able to do so, as this will give you a big damage boost on the 4th hit. You will of course know that if you do a Levioso or something before that, and then do a combination, this again will increase the damage further, but this 4 combination is super useful. The only time you obviously shouldn't do this is of course if you need to block or you need to dodge an attack instead. Once you've completed a few of the initial quests in the game and you have reached at least level 5, you will unlock the talents section here on the main menu. This will allow you to pick specific talents which you can go through and they will enhance your gameplay. For example, you can go onto the spells here, and as you can see on this account, I have Accio Mastery, which is enemies near a target summoned by Accio are also pulled towards you. Now you can go ahead and use these to upgrade, but talents are final, and the game does tell you that you cannot reset these talents once you've spent them, so do spend a little bit of time going through and reading what each one does before you put your points into it. There is different styles of play, and each of these different categories has very cool abilities in. Some of the ones I've gone for so far are the Swift, which is holding down dodge, allows you to vanish and reappear quickly, which is really useful in combat for getting out the way of abilities and repositioning yourself. I've also gone for the Ancient Magic Throw expertise. Once you unlock Expelliarmus slightly later on in the game, you can then unlock this ability, which means the Ancient Magic Throw catches and throws disarmed enemy weapons. It's a really nice combination and is really satisfying. And another one that I've gone for here is Basic Cast Mastery, which is where basic cast impacts reduce spell cooldowns. You're going to be using a lot of basic attacks in between all of your spells, particularly while they're on cooldown, so getting this one early on can really help out. But as you guys can see, I do still have some unspent talent points. That is because I don't have access to all of the spells. I've still got one to unlock here from this first section. And of course, when you hit level 16, which I just have, you are able to then unlock some higher tier upgrades if again you have the spells unlocked. So you can go ahead and do that. What I would recommend doing though is reading through what each of these talents does and picking the ones that best suit your playstyle, whatever that may be. And Room of Requirements is something I definitely wouldn't rule out, but you may want to come back to later in the game, as it does have some really nice benefits, but they might be more beneficial in the mid to late game. Now this one might sound a little bit obvious, but make sure that you are gathering everything on your travels around. In a game of this sort, this is generally what people do anyway, but this really does help in Hogwarts Legacy. Without spoilers, I won't say specifically what for, but everything does have a use, and to progress in certain quests later on, or certain side quests, having the materials ready to go is always a super nice feeling. Should you require certain resources though, somewhere that you unlock pretty early on in the game is Hogsmeade, and you can often buy most of the resources you will need for any quests or side quests from the village here, so do not be afraid to go to the shop if you haven't managed to gather some of the materials or resources that you require. For example, the Magic Neep obviously has the farmer NPC kind of outside of it. They will be able to sell you some of the materials that you need for some of the early potions quests. Another massively important point in Hogwarts Legacy is to make sure that you are selling items when you get an upgrade, and particularly before going on quests. As you guys can see, right now I have quite a lot of things in my inventory, and it says gear 22 out of 24. Now when you start the game, it'll actually be slightly lower than this. There are ways to increase this, which is going to be through doing the Merlin's Trials, which if you haven't yet discovered, it'll be something that you come across later in the game, and is basically a way that you can explore the world and complete little tasks and puzzles, which will then increase the amount of gear storage that you have. But starting the game early on, you have very limited amounts, and obviously you want to keep picking up more and more gear in the hopes to get better stuff, so make sure that you are selling this as often as possible, because if you don't sell it, you'll fill up slots, and then what you'll have to do is, as you can see in the bottom right here, there is a destroy button. Now this is something that you should avoid doing at all costs, because as you guys can see on the screen as well, this is worth 60 gold, these ones are worth 90 gold, and the purple here is worth 150 gold, so this is quite a lot of money that you could be missing out on. Now, if, like myself, in the early game you find yourself in a situation where you do have to destroy a couple of things in order to just pick up the next thing because you forgot to sell, you were too engrossed in the game, not to worry, make sure that you always do any greys that you have, and then the greens, and then the blues, and then the purples, and then if you absolutely have to, the legendaries in that order, because by rarity, going up in rarity, they actually sell for more. So obviously, as you can see, green 60, blue is 90, purple is 150, so obviously if you had to destroy one, you'd pick the green first, or greys if you had them. Now, sticking with the gear system here, Hogwarts Legacy has a really cool feature that is very unique to the game, and that is, as you guys can see, I have this Velvet House Cloak equipped, but I have my Dark Arts Cloak set actually showing. Now, what you can do in this game is once you have a piece of gear equipped in one of your 6 slots, you can go ahead and hover over it. Now, again, on PC, the keybind to change the appearance here, as you guys can see in the bottom left of the pop-up, is F. Again, on console, this will be your respective keybind. If you hover over it, it will tell you what that button is. You go ahead and press that one, and you can change the appearance to anything you would like. So I can put on the Spider Slayer's armor, for example, here, or the Dragonhide Protector's Cloak. Now, these are all things that I've unlocked through collections, so there is different ones that you can have here, and also other ones that you get during the game, for example, items that you pick up along your journeys. Even once you have sold them or destroyed them, you will still have the ability to change a future item to look like a previous one. So you should always put on the item with the best stats, and then just change the look of it if you want to do so. So like I said, I'm going for my Dark Arts robe here. I think this one looks really cool. But if we go back out, you can see I actually have on the Velvet House Cloak. And if you want to go ahead and reverse this, you can simply go back into the menu. You can put invisible robes on, which means the robes actually don't show up, and you can see the underneath armor. Or you can, of course, go ahead and find the one you have on, which would be this one, and re-equip that aesthetic. The invisible headwear slot is particularly useful, as if you do choose to use this one, you will be given the option to see your character's hair. If you're anything like me and many other players, you will have spent a fair while making your character exactly how you want them to look, so it is worth noting that you can get rid of any such headwear should you choose to do so. Additionally, worth noting on the character creation and customization side of things, you can of course head over to Madam Snelling's Tress Emporium, and over there you are able to change quite a lot of your character's appearance, stuff even after you have created your character, things like your haircut, face markings, etc. So if you do want to change anything or you think you've made a mistake, once you've created your character, you can head over there and see whether you were able to change it. And that is of course in Hogsmeade Village. Now, these next few things that I'm going to talk about here are going to be slight spoilers, so they are going to talk about future things that you'll unlock. If you want absolutely no spoilers, then this might be the point to save the video and come back to it later. But if you don't mind hearing a few things about upcoming things to put your mind at ease slightly or reassure you about things you can come back to, then stay tuned to the video. Now, once you get a decent proportion of the way through the game, you will unlock Alohomora, which is of course the unlocking spell. This is the system that you will get. Again, you will have different keybinds if you are on a console, but what you will need to do is essentially rotate the green and the red sparks until the mechanisms start moving. So if we rotate the red one, you can see that's now moving, and then we rotate the green one until the bottom right mechanism starts moving. And once you've got both of these moving simultaneously, that will of course unlock the door and allow you access to this. It's not something you get though until later in the game, so don't worry about all of the blocked things that you see early on. You will be able to come back and get those. Now, once you have unlocked Alohomora, you are actually able to upgrade this by bringing Mr. Moon some more of the moons, which is the quest where you actually get this spell unlocked. And bringing him more of those will upgrade the spell so that you can unlock the higher level locks later in the game. Now, once you have unlocked flying in Hogwarts and you actually have got yourself a broomstick, one thing you will notice is the speed is pretty slow if you are, of course, flying around the map. Now, for those of you that don't know, you can, of course, hold down your left click or your movement buttons on consoles to give yourself a speed boost, but as you can see in the bottom right corner, the yellow bar of stamina, as it were, does go down when you are doing this. One thing you can do, though, to not use stamina and still get a good boost of speed is fly low towards the ground. This will also allow you to pick up items as you are flying around, although I would recommend toggling your speed option to slow down slightly when you are trying to pick stuff up, like for example these leaping toadstool caps here, as it is pretty difficult to do when you are flying at full speed. However, going gently past them is pretty easy. The only complication here is you can't destroy the moonstone from the back of a broom, so you may want to jump off and grab that if you would like it for your room of requirements. Speaking of which, the room of requirements is actually pretty easy to access once you have unlocked it. For those of you that haven't yet noticed, there is a little icon of a sun above the Hogwarts map, which gives you secret rooms. Of course, many of you will have the map chamber if you've done the initial few quests, and once you've unlocked the room of requirement, it will also appear here. You can simply click on this to be fast travelled to that location whenever you desire. This will allow you to quickly get into your room of requirements, whether that be to tend to your plants, or indeed pick up some potions that you may have been brewing, or whatever else you're doing in your room of requirements, very easy and simply from the main map menu of Hogwarts. So that is pretty much going to cover it for today's video. If you guys have any additional tips and tricks that you think are really useful for new players in Hogwarts Legacy that I have missed, please do be sure to drop them in the comments down below. If you have enjoyed today's video, please do drop me a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all of my Hogwarts Legacy content. There'll be plenty more coming here very, very shortly. Other than that, I would like to thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.